Hello, welcome to Flooring Models on Test. Today we're going to be looking at primers. I know what you're thinking, here we go again. We've done on test with primers time and time again. And to be honest, at the first time you use them, you tend to think, yeah, this is great, it's working really well, and there's always something, okay? So what we've got here is a selection of the primers, which to be honest, we sort of recommended, and then very quickly retracted that recommendation because of a problem with them. So what I'm going to do is just talk you through the ones we've been using and the problems we've had, okay? So first of all, you've got your normal standard sort of surface primer, which is the Tamiya one. Now this is probably the best of the bunch, okay? The only trouble with this one is, obviously it's quite expensive to do, and secondly, it's quite a large area, i.e. you've got no real control over it. You are literally just putting down an area all over everything. It clogs up your filters quite nicely just by the amount that's coming out of it and all the rest of it. Generally though, it does work very well, but the trouble with this one is it literally is just a primer, okay? So it's not going to take care of any imperfections particularly well on your surface, and if you've got something, you know, perhaps you're going to be going on with a very fine detail afterwards, all those imperfections are going to show through. So in some ways it's great at what it's doing, i.e. getting paint to grip to it, but generally day-to-day stuff, I just find it's a little bit more of a hassle and I've got better ways of doing things, okay? So we got that one. The other option, of course, is to do what I've been doing recently. You've seen a lot of my videos, is I've just bought a bulk load of XF19 Sky Grey and I've just been spraying that. That way I've got control over it because I can make it as thick or as thin as I need to. So depending if I want to cover up an area or we're just going to be putting down, you know, technically a primer for the paint to stick to it, then obviously we can make it from a 50-50 mix, perhaps more like a 60-40 or a 70-30 mix, just depending if we want to cover something up a little bit more heavy, okay? Generally though, fantastic because you've got good control. I can put it exactly where I want it. So we can do a big area, we can do a small area and anything between, and I can mix up any amount that I want, okay? And do it that way. It's the old school way, it's the way I used to do it 20 years ago, and then obviously these newfangled ones came along. I had to go with those, never been very impressed, and to be honest, a couple of months ago, as you know, I went back to doing this way. Then we went along and we got a little bit sort of, you know, into some of the primers. So out came a while ago now is this guy, which is the Surface Primer, and it's because it's polyurethane, it's got great covering capability. When we first used this stuff, we were absolutely totally blown away with it because you could literally flood an area with it, think you've destroyed all your detail. This stuff dries back and you can see all the detail. So if you've got something like, you know, perhaps we've been working on recently this guy here, where you've got extremely fine riveting details and very fine panel lines, if you got a little bit carried away with some of the other stuff, you would flood those out and you would lose them. This stuff, it didn't matter if it was like a C over the top with self sort of level, get it down in those gaps, and you would still see all the details and give you a very smooth finish, okay? I raved about this when I first used it. Trouble was though, when you come to sand this stuff, it just doesn't sand. It rolls up on itself. It's like a rubber. So what happened was you used to have to wait weeks for this stuff to go off. Personally, like a lot of you, I'm a very speedy builder. I don't want to wait weeks for primer to go off, especially when it's one of those things where perhaps you're working on your model and you suddenly realise you've got a little bit of imperfection around the canopy, you go to give it a rub, it peels it off, it's like a lump out of it, and then it's a nightmare to fix. Yeah, if you were using perhaps obviously surface primers or just an acrylic, you could just rub that down, re-blow it in and do it, and it's a 2-minute job. It made things a slow process, okay? So from the point of view of it working, works very well, but if you ever need to fix any problems with it, it was a no-no. So very quickly, I stopped using it. Then MIG came along with their one, which to be honest isn't a million miles away from that one, okay? And with this one, again, we were quite excited about it. It went down really, really well. It did the job, it covered extremely well. But again, we had trouble because when you come to sand it, being this one is known as a polymer, waterborne polymer, which I still reckon is a polyurethane, it literally just rolls up on itself. And if I'm honest, I didn't think this one covered as particularly as well as the actual one from Vallejo. I don't know if it's a little bit thinner or the way it worked. The other thing as well, you can probably see down the bottom here, is one hell of a pigment at the bottom. These have been both sat in my cupboard for the same amount. This is brand new, this one's not, okay? But they've been in there for roughly the same time. You can see we've got a big, heavy, thick pigment down here. This one although it's got it, it's not as bad as this one. This one takes ages to wake up, and as I say, you need like an agitator in there to get this one to go and to wake it up, because it's very thick. And I think this was a lot of the problem. A lot of this heavy pigment is down at the bottom and never really gets mixed in, okay? So you just have to watch it when you're actually using this stuff. But again, the drawback was, it took forever to actually mask anything, to actually sand anything down, purely because of the roll up. And again, it just, I don't know, just didn't really work for me. It was so much easier just to come in with an acrylic and do it. Now, at this point, I pulled my hair out and said, that's it. I'm never going to get taken on the bandwagon, shall we say, of like, oh, a new fantastic all singing, all dancing primer. Everyone goes out and buy one. I'm the same. I do it as well. So I went jolly off and I bought that one, which to be honest is rubbish. And so is the MIG one. And to be honest, that one's rubbish as well. Okay. For my style of modeling, I must say. Okay. If you're a modeler who's going to take weeks, you'll love this stuff. I like something that goes down and you can use it instantly. Okay. Now, the guys on the forum spoke about this stuff. Okay, then this is the pronouncing this is a little bit odd, okay, but it's Stynylrez is what I'm calling it, okay. This here is by Badger. You know, Badger, as we know, very old airbrush company and all the rest of it, but they do come up with some good products as well. This is definitely seems to be one of them. Now, the guys started to harp on about this in the forum, saying this stuff's brilliant. All the problems we've had with these two are now out the window, because this stuff you can sand straight away. And it was a case of, okay, I'll get a bottle one day. I've had enough of primers, if I'm honest. Anyway, Wayne Hillman sent me this said bottle last week. And then on this week's live test, I had an idea in my mind that we would do live on air on the live show, and I did it. And I expected it to take over a few days, for let it dry and then we'll sand it and all the rest of it. We did it in 20 minutes and covered completely Buster here. Now, Buster, as you know, is horrible. He looks like this all over, and he's metal, okay? And we've managed to go round and sand him. We've sanded it all down. We're going to show you again here, but if you want to see it live, then go and have a look at this week's live show, okay? Because it absolutely worked a treat. And I was absolutely blown away with this stuff, because all those problems I've said about with all of these before us, this doesn't have them. This works just as well as this, but because this one has got a better, like a polyurethane, it covers better. So all these things where they show slight imperfections through it and all the rest of it, this will hide it. So it will mask a multitude of little mistakes, i.e. we're talking things like little glue marks, this will hide it. Scratches in your paintwork, fine ones, it will hide it, okay, and all those things. So, you know, to be honest, this guy down here, I've been working on this one. You might notice I've got some very fine scratcher, which camera will get it, or even if you can see it, but I have got some very fine scratches, which I've elected to leave now because they've sort of come through, but technically I have got them in there. I know for a fact if I'd used this stuff, they would have gone. They would never have shown through. It would have been absolutely fine, okay? So what I'm going to do today is basically recreate what we did on the live show, but a little bit more in depth, and obviously we've got the other cameras and all the bits and pieces like that. I've got a couple of little bits of models down here as well. So we've got an unprimed one. It's done by one of our junior members. I hope he's not going to mind me priming it for him. Okay, so we've got that one. We've got what we did on the live show. This is the other part to it. I sprayed directly over AK's metal paint, and we got the inside to use as that. So what we're going to do is just show you how easy this stuff is and how well it works, all right? And hopefully we won't need any edits or cuts in any of this, so you can just see how good this stuff is, all right? So what we're going to do is we're just going to pop this down here. Okay, big thing with this stuff, where is it? Let's get rid of those because we're going to confuse with them all else. Okay, the big stuff with this stuff is to make sure it is shaken really well. You might notice you get dark patches in it and things like that. This is the only thing it says everywhere on the internet, is to make sure that this stuff is completely well mixed. Otherwise you could have problems. You could get roll ups, you could have all of those things, but they make no joke about it. Literally make sure it's completely mixed up and it's all good to go. Comes in 3 colours. You've got white, grey and black. It also comes in, I think this is a 60, it comes in a bigger one and then a huge one again, okay. It's around about £6 a bottle for this stuff. You use it neat, but I know what you're thinking, they're quite expensive. This stuff has got amazing capabilities. We sprayed all of this stuff on the live demo and I had so much left over in the colour cup, it's unbelievable. And I only put half a colour cup in, all right. So, usual thing as well, just to point out, this here is my Infinity CR Plus. It always has, and always does with all of mine, has the 0.2 needle set in there, okay? So it's quite a fine needle for something that's quite a thick product, okay? So what we're going to do, literally just going to come along, I'm going to squirt in half a colour cup. You can see it's really thick, gloopy stuff, okay? This isn't a thin product, all right? Make sure you put the lid on straight away. Okay, so what we're going to do, just check our flow. Bearing in mind I've had other things going through this airbrush. So first of all with Buster, I'm just going to recoat what we had here, okay, just to show. Okay, so all we're going to do is just going to come along. And to start with, to be honest, I used to be very frightened of this stuff, and I was quite gentle. Now I spray this as I would any other acrylic, like if I was using, you know, X19 thin. Not gentle with it, you just chuck this down absolutely everywhere. Okay, and as you can see, it covers extremely well. Okay, so that's over that one. We put that one deliberately so we can show you. So over neat plastic, what we're going to do, I'm just going to do a wing, to be honest, because say this isn't actually my model. Okay, but we can see, popping this down, neat plastic. We're not being particularly nice with it. We just come in. I just want to take care of these wings. Okay, so if we just do a half. So we've got scratching on the top, so what I'm going to do is give this a heavy coat over the top to show you how good this stuff is. Okay, and as you can see, we're blasting away, but we've still got a lot on here, okay? No problem at all. So we're just going to redo the tail. Just going to come in here and redo this wing. Second coat just going over. Alright, and we'll leave that just like that. Okay, third up, obviously if you're going to go over a metallizer finish, you just know it's going to be, you know, very difficult. You might get it bead up with some of the other ones and everything else like that, okay? So what we're just going to do is I'm just going to do it on the tail here. You can see this is where we had trouble with the metallizers peeling. Alright, so what we're going to do is just going to chuck a coat of this down over the peeled surface. So I'm hoping this will get rid of it. It will show you how good this stuff is at actually getting rid of it. But you see, you can put down a very heavy coat, and I'm really going to flood this, alright, and hopefully you can see we've got rid of that peeling completely. Okay, now if you were coming over with the usual stuff, you might have a little bit of trouble with that. Now, we have put very heavy coats on all three of those items just like that. So we've got neat plastic, metallizer finished, and over a very nasty surface that perhaps you've had to go through. What I'm going to do one more bit just at the front of Buster, just to show you how good this stuff is and how capable it is of covering literally anything. The other thing I do have to mention, and the stuff I love about this, there is no odour. There's a very slight smell of something, but it definitely isn't chemically. It's definitely not nasty. And the other thing as well, you think I'm spraying around here very, very heavily. I've got no, you know, flying around. This is going on, it's sticking, it's not airborne. If I'm spraying, you know, XF19 like this would be like a fog in here now. That I'd have to use the spray booth. This one, I can get away and do it in here with no real problem at all, okay? So as you can see, Buster really having a hard life these days. So what we're going to do is, we're just going to come over and try and cover up some of this. Now admittedly, this has got huge lumps and divots and things in it. So this is sort of the ultimate test here. But I'm hoping we can probably smooth some of this out. If we just come in down here. Bearing in mind this has got a horrible, horrible coat of something on it. And as you can see, it's big old lumpy stuff. Keep going, got enough, not quite enough, maybe. Just pump the triggers, get that last bit through. Come on! Okay, and there we go. Absolutely fantastic. Alright, so what I'm going to do is stick it in there. Now clean up with this stuff, because it is polyurethane, you don't want this lying around in your airbrush too long. So I do highly recommend it coming in with your airbrush cleaner. Give it a squirt. I've got my little dump tray here. My old brush, it doesn't drop bristles. Okay, so you just give this a mix up. This is standard Vallejo's airbrush cleaner. Alright, so I do it my usual way. Just make sure you get the dried skin around the top out of the way, because it will do it, same as any other paint. Okay, then tip it. Don't squirt it into your airbrush like that, because that skin on the top or anything that's stuck to the side can then get down to the business end, i.e. the needle, and then you're going to be that thing of stop starting, stop starting. So what I tend to do is 2 little washouts, just like this. That gets rid of all the nasty stuff that's down there, trapped around the needle. Then the last one that goes in, a little bit harsh, just blow it through. Pumping the trigger to make sure you clean the needle as it goes all the way down. Don't do this back blow business. I know a lot of people do it. Trust me, that's how you break seals. Because all you're doing is putting unnatural wear on your airbrush. But I see a lot of people these days doing this thing of holding down the needle and blowing it backwards. Well, don't forget, technically, everything that your airbrush is trying to do, i.e. making go one way, is now having to do the other. So you are putting pressure on all the mechanical parts inside your airbrush. All the seals are under pressure. And, you know, people often say to me, well, how often do I change my internal seals? And I'm like, well, every sort of 4 or 5 years. I know people who go through them weekly, literally, and I'm sure it's because they've got hot chemicals, lacquers, backflowing, it puts pressure on these said items and it causes problems. So, you know, just a tip from me, do it that way. Blow through until you're on your paper towel and you've got nothing comes out when it stops, okay? And when I say when it stops, this is how you tell that the actual nozzle area is clear. When you stop, you still see we've got it coming out? That's actually leftover residue inside the nozzle. So you just want to put a drop in, pump your trigger. Okay, and we're out now and we've got nothing coming through. That means it's clean. That way you won't get the jam. If you're ever one of these people who does airbrushing, you come to it the next day and the needle's jammed, that's because of that, okay? Do it until it's completely clear. I know a lot of people will carry on, oh, there's just a bit in there, that's fine. Trust me, that's what happens, all right? Now, I might be a little bit premature here, but if we just go back with some of these areas where we've been already today, let me just get these out of the way. Now, these are still a little bit wet in various areas. All right. This guy here is the first one we did. As you can see, we've been, I don't know, 5 minutes, and we are now completely touch dry, okay? I wouldn't say this is holding dry, okay? Because if you hold onto it too long, what's going to happen is you're going to warm up the actual surface, you're going to put a fingerprint in it, so just be a little bit careful, all right? But generally, it's no problem at all. What I'm going to do, just to speed this up half a tick, is hit it with the old hairdryer. Okay, well, just to dry these off, just a second, so just bear with me. Right, okay. So, first of all, let's just have a look at this one because I think this one's a good example. Now, you saw it had the tape where it had ripped through and all the rest of it, and it left quite nasty, looked like tank tracks had driven over it. If you look at this guy, I don't know which camera's going to be best here. I'll tell you what we'll do, we'll just play cameraman a bit here. Let's just drop this down a tad. Hopefully you can see, if we catch it in the light, we have no evidence of that whatsoever. It's managed to cover and take care of it, and you can see all that the riveting detail and everything else still showing through as if it never happened. Now, that wasn't sanded back, that was literally just torn off and then it's covered it. Now, if you'd seen the live show, you know I did it on like bits when we were testing it and it was peeling it. Down here when we used in those, we covered those up on the other one completely, doing the same thing, but hopefully here you can see it on the close-up how well it has actually covered that. All right, now because I've done it with a hairdryer, it's a bit of a fake thing there because it'll be dry on the surface but the rest of it's not. Okay, but we're going to come back to that in a moment, but you can see beautiful work there. Then we've got this guy. Now, I suppose I should have showed you before. Now, Ryan, who did this one, had a few little glue marks, shall we say, running down his wing roots and things like this on this, and he had a lot of scratching on the top where he hadn't quite finished it off, all right? But generally, if we look at this side, we don't take any notice of that blob. That was me when I was cleaning out the airbrush, a bit flicked over, okay? But as you can see, we've got no glue marks now running down the insides there whatsoever. And hopefully you can see on the roof there, down here, we've got no scratch marks. But I think he'd done it with a medium sanding stick and hadn't polished it up yet, okay? But as you can see, it's gone down absolutely perfectly well, beautifully done. And the same on the bottom, it was a little bit scratchy, just running along here. Those scratches are gone. We've got a little bit of a seam line down there, but that can be taken care of later on. But generally, hopefully you can see, in fact you can probably see we've got quite a glue mark running down here. You can just see it, that's there, but from a point of view of I'm looking at it, can't, I think another couple of coats properly, because obviously we didn't really do the wing, that would go as well. All right, so it's covered up all the imperfections beautifully with no problem at all. And to be honest, he's got quite a large fingerprint was down in here, and that's gone as well. Okay, you can just see the remnants of it shining through, but generally, considering it wasn't sanded, polished up, or ready, for primer or anything yet, it's no problem at all. Went down exceptionally well. And again, down here, he had a glue mark running down there as well, and that's gone. So it does hide and take care of all your imperfections really nicely. And also, you can see it's got this beautiful satin look to it, okay, which means you paint, if you're going to go over it with a gloss, will work really well, or with a matte as your next stage, it's going to be absolutely fine with it. Okay, so that's looking really nice. Now the big test was obviously Buster here. Okay, so if we're starting at the back, we're going to have a go with this in a minute. I'm going to sand it and show you, but generally, as you can see, you saw what he was like. This is how good this stuff is at covering up. We catch it in the light. Now obviously you have got lumps and bumps, but bearing in mind this was covered in concrete, this area down here has come out amazingly well. Okay, but you saw what it was and how well it's actually hidden it all away. I'm trying to catch it in the light to show you in every angle. Okay, but how good this stuff really is. Okay, it worked an absolute treat with this. Now, over on this side, it's one that we did earlier, so we can actually have a sand with this one. So I'm going to show you on here before we try with the other one. So I've got here basically a newish sanding stick, all right? So if we just show you in here, from a sanding point of view, you can see how rough this texture is as soon as we start to sand in it. As you can see, it sands in absolutely beautifully, and it's a nice dust. If I do the old trouser trick, it cleans out really, really well. But if we have a go on here already, so we've only been literally a few minutes. Normally I'd let mine dry a lot longer, but this stuff, as you can see the dust. This is dust coming off of here. It's not rolling up, it's physically sanding. Okay, so as you can see, it's cleaning out. If it was rolling up, it would stick in here. Okay, so if we just have a go down here, as you can see, this has only been a few minutes and we can sand it. Okay. Again, it's dust coming off. It's not rolling up at all. And that is absolutely perfectly smooth, absolutely gorgeous. Okay, so if you were thinking about doing, something, I don't know, you're going to be having a go at something along the lines of gloss work, things like that. This stuff's absolutely beautiful because this is a medium sanding stick. It's not even a polisher, and that feels like a polished surface. So really, really good. And again, you just clean it out, and it'll clean out of our files. Ours are self-cleaning anyway, but generally it's always a sign that if it gets clogged up in here, it's obviously still wet. But this technically you shouldn't be able to do. Even if I was using XF19, I don't think I'd sand it this quick. I'd leave it an hour, 2 hours to totally dry, then I would sand it. Here we are, we're talking minutes, and you can sand this stuff. So from that point of view, it's absolutely perfect. Okay, so last up, we just want to give it a mask. I was asked to mask it. They said you didn't mask it during the thing. How can you? I don't know why you'd want to mask primer, but hey ho. All right, so you've got your tape. Now we're going to do it two ways. We're doing this neat straight on here. Okay, so you've got it on there, so you're over the top. No problem with that at all. And this I haven't knocked off on the back of my hand or anything else like that. So what we're going to do. Okay, so if we do one more, and this is neat. It's not coming off, right? Okay, now we're going to try it on here. Now I know this is still wet, or maybe still wet. I'll tell you what, fresh bit. So we're not trying to con anyone here, because otherwise I'll get other one saying, you didn't do such and such. It's like, God, guys, what do you want? Okay, down on here. And don't forget, if I'm using this stuff, I will normally put it over here, and admittedly, all right, we've got a bit of peel there, but I'm not gonna say, because that was worst case scenario. And don't forget, I'll give this an hour and it'll be absolutely fine. Okay, so if we just come in here, okay, you can mask over this. This isn't AK stuff peeling off. This is just, this is caught an edge and it's torn from the edge. Both of those are torn from the edge coming forward. All right, so we do another one up here. And as I say, if you're a little bit careful, but don't forget, I would never do that in a million years anyway. I would always do this way, so it goes on the back of your hand, and at least do 2 or 3 passes. We just do 2, and then let's assume you are masking up. And so I don't know why you'd be masking primer, but it goes down just like that, and then you can peel away. So yes, it is totally tapeable. This isn't AK anyway, so you know, like that. Really, really nice. This guy over here, as you can see, still nothing down there at all, no peely marks and all the things coming off of that. Worked an absolute treat. You can probably just about see those peely marks actually coming just in there, but definitely without a coat of paint over that you wouldn't see those at all. They're not into the actual paintwork, so that's coming off absolutely fantastic. And I reckon, to be honest, once this stuff has been dried down and properly down for an hour, 2 hours, you can mask over this as hard as you like. You can do anything, but I've never known a product that you can sand 10 minutes after spraying it. Never in my life, so it's really, really good. So there we go. This does get the full old Flory Models full endorsement for this stuff. Absolutely fantastic. So anyway, here it is. It's I don't know, everyone's going to pronounce this differently, but I would do it as Stynylrez, okay? It's by Badger. You can get it various places around the UK, obviously the USA being an American company, no problem. Rest of the world, now on our forum, some of the guys are mentioning where you can get it. Actually, some of the guys obviously in Australia, we spoke about it on the live show, they found a place to get it over there as well with no real problems. So you haven't got the huge import charges and things like that, okay? But this stuff is actually, I must say, a highly recommended must. And for me to give a must, I think it's a first actually, I don't think I've ever done this before, but everybody should have a bottle of this. If you're doing primer work, get this. So it's available white, grey or black, different size bottles. I'm probably going to go off and get the big bottles because I can't see myself using anything else ever again. So there we go, big old thumbs up for this stuff. Go get yourself a bottle.